Hey everyone, let's talk about Bona Nets and the best way to utilize them on all the different tools we have, and especially in conjunction with also different intermediate pads, steel plates, etc. Now again, let's just kind of talk about first nets versus diamonds versus Bona Black. Bona Black gives us a really nice finish as well, and maybe something that you've been using and not a bad option, but again, I think since we came out with diamonds and now nets, we've got better options for those final sanding or any fine sanding that you need to do. Bona diamonds, I mean, you can't beat them. Longevity, cut, but also a little expensive, right? So unless you found a good way to preserve your sets of diamonds in between jobs, maybe that cost is weighing a little on you, and Bona Nets can solve that. Also great longevity and cutting power and stuff on the nets, especially with the aluminum oxide, and then ceramic option also in those, but definitely more economical, closer to, you know, Bona Black than what you're going to pay for the diamonds. So we're going to focus on nets being that perfect in-between option versus black versus diamonds. And then again, how do we incorporate that into all of our different tools? So if I'm using it on power drive and or multi-disc, the one thing I want to make sure I protect is the Velcro system on my main plates, because it's more expensive to have to replace this whole sanding plate, the yellow sanding plates, than an intermediate pad or even to replace the Velcro on a steel plate. So we've got our typical 1/4 inch intermediate pad, and then these new thinner intermediate pads that are specifically for the Bona Nets. So while I can use 1/4 inch pads, let's focus on these new intermediate pads. They're an 1/8 inch thick. And again, my goal is to keep the system flat, keep it aggressive, yet still protect the hook and loop material on here and on my multi-disc with the use of these intermediate pads. So pretty simple. I'm typically going to run the 1/8 inch intermediate pad on my power drive and or on my multi-disc, right? And then my nets directly on there. This gives me a nice, simple, easy system in that it keeps, again, everything flat. I do have just a little bit of cushion, but because they're an 1/8 inch, I really don't feel it's going to dish out the grain on me. And, you know, even though I've got some cushion in the yellow pads themselves, it typically is more to help just it conform a little bit, but keeps everything still nice and flat. So that's going to be my basic system. However, if you want to run steel plates, then I'm probably still going to run 1/4 inch intermediate pad, steel plate, and then my nets, and run that on my system. What that does is, again, the steel plate helps keep everything super flat. My 1/4 inch pad helps give it just a little bit of conformity, so if there are some high spots and stuff in the floor, it doesn't give me a burnish mark on there, and that's a great system to use. One other option, if you wanted to, is to use either the steel plate and then the 1/4 inch pad, or my 1/8 inch pad. Again, if you want to try to protect just the Velcro that's on your steel plate, 1/4 inch pad or the 1/8 inch pad on there, and then your Bona Net directly on top of that. But again, my go-to is probably going to be just the 1/8 inch pad and nets directly on my power drive disc, or 1/4 inch pad, steel plate, and then nets directly on my steel plate. Those are going to be my two go-tos. Same thing when I hit the multi-disc. Again, my go-tos are going to be 1/8 inch intermediate pad to help protect the Velcro on my yellow drive sanding discs, and then nets directly on top of that. Or if I use steel plates, I'm going to go 1/4 inch pad and then steel plates, and then my nets on top of that on each of my discs on my multi-disc. Now when I go over to my 16 inch drive plate, there's no need for any of the intermediate pads. I'm just going conditioning pads, right? These give me the cushion or conformity that I might need to the system. And 1 or 2 of those, I'm going to go 2 conditioning pads if I've got, you know, a slightly hand-scraped floor, or maybe I have a pre-finished floor that has micro bevels in it. Stacking 2 of these on top gives me a lot of cushion and a lot of conformity to the surface undulations on those floors. Make sure I'm getting everything nice and evenly abraded, because I need that to make sure I have maximum adhesion for whatever's going back over the top. So you can stack 2 if you need it. If you need to be a little flatter, or you know the floor's already nice and flat, I can just go with a single conditioning pad, 2 or 3 select net grits over the top of that to give me the abrasion that I need. And of course it's an option if I'm not using 5-inch in anything, I'm only using 6-inch power drive, and then I've got a 6-inch festool, I've only got 6-inch nets, then you can obviously just substitute a couple 6-inch nets for the 3 5-inch that I'm using on that for your abrasive needs. And then when I go power tools, right, any of my random orbit sanders, I can again incorporate these 1/8-inch pads, because these are already pretty nice and stiff. So then adding one of the 1/8-inch pads over that maintains my hole conformity and allows that breathe through, so I still have really good dust containment on this to help with the minimized clogging as well, versus something that is completely flat and solid like the black. This will be a lot better setup for my random orbit sanders, whether it's my festool or whether I've got, you know, just a 5-inch sander like the Bosch. Again, use your 1/4-inch or your 1/8-inch 5-inch tool, and then you can line up the holes on that to maintain your breathability there. And then I'm running my nets directly over the top. It gives me a nice flat aggressive sanding system, still just a little cushion for conformity, but maintains that breathe through aspect that are one of the big advantages for my nets as well. So that's the Bona Nets, how we incorporate them into all the different systems, drive plates and stuff that we have for fine sanding, in-between sanding, and recoating, surface preparation. How we run them on all the different tools with the different intermediate pads. And so choose your Bona Net grit that best suits you, the tool setup, and that'll help you create beautiful floors no matter what tool or process you're using.